Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Wellness for the Hot Mess. I'm back. I have been gone on retreat and inside of my own integration practice for a while, but I am really looking forward to speaking with you all today about a really big energy update. You guys knew that I was going to explore a plant medicine journey with 8 of the most incredible women in my life that I have been journeying with in entrepreneurship. And I didn't speak too much about the process leading up to this journey, specifically with ayahuasca. It was my first time, and mostly because I was really nervous and I needed to process my nerves so that I could get the most out of this experience. You know that in my life, I work with the nervous system. I support women around their journey, learning how to be in their nervous system. And I could feel that it wasn't fear and it wasn't, the nerves wasn't a sign from my body that this was a no-go. The nerves was a sign from my body that I needed to explore this. And so moving into the work that I do with other people, specifically women, I really teach people how to be in their nervous system. And rather than to always trying to fix and to heal or put a Band-Aid over, it's like, let's honor our nervous system. Let's honor the way the body protects us. Let's honor the programs that we have, because those programs are keeping us safe. And let's just be real, those programs have gotten us to where we are today. And that is relevant in this episode where I'm going to share about my experience with ayahuasca. That is very relevant because what came through for me was a lot about the body. I had a full somatic experience, and the messages that came through to me from God were all about trusting the body. And that is my mission on this planet. So you always hear, or at least in the world of plant medicine, specifically ayahuasca, what I have heard from people is that when you get the call to explore this sacred medicine, you will know. And that is so abstract, right? If someone has been, especially nowadays, because we say plant medicine and then our phone gives us all these plant medicine groups to join, right? We are being closely monitored, yes, by source and also by technology. And so if you're listening and you're like, oh shit, well, I just saw something about ayahuasca on Google, does this mean that this is my call? It might, and it might not. So I'm going to share a little bit about my journey start to finish. And I'm also going to answer some of the incredible questions that we received on the podcast page. I want to preface with everything I thought and I perceived to be true, at least about my experience, was wrong. And it's funny because I could feel myself protecting myself, even when I was speaking about deciding to do this, deciding to take this step with this sacred medicine. I could feel myself almost like diluting the power and what weight this experience was going to hold for me. But it was like a familiar feeling. So I was almost like diluting it because I knew myself and I knew that this was going to change my life. And I knew that this was going to validate everything I needed to be validated. And I knew how deep of a connection I had with my body, how sacred of a connection I had with my body. I knew I did. And I was almost undermining that connection and giving power to the sacred medicine over the discernment and the trust that I've already created with my body beyond the medicine. This medicine just reassured me that I am on the right path and that there is so much magic to be had in my life and in turn the life of the people in my community. So when I said yes to exploring the medicine, we were offered in this beautiful mastermind called Medicine Woman that I was in with Chelsea Jo Huntsman. She forever changed my life. I will probably work with her forever. I just extended my mentorship with her for another 5 months, but this medicine journey was the end of our 6-month business mastermind. I quote unquote say business because if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in the wellness space, if you're a creator, you know that it is way more than business. And that's what it was, right? We were showing up weekly to these online calls to share our insecurities, to share our fears, to share our wins. And it was just incredible. And so at the end of the experience, we had the opportunity to go to the Big Island for a retreat. And then we also had an opportunity to sit in a medicine journey with everybody. And to be honest, at first I was like, okay, I'm just going to sign up for the mastermind. It sounds perfect. I want to work with Chelsea. This is going to be one of the biggest investments I've ever made in myself and in my business. I spoke about it on one of our first Wellness for the Hot Mess episodes in the summer. And it really did. Making that investment really took me to the next level in business because we don't know the power that we have to choose what we desire to come into our field until we just fucking choose it. So I said, I'm going to make this investment. It's big. It's a little scary, but guess what? It's worth it. Every fucking penny was worth it. I didn't in that moment make the investment for the retreat and the medicine journey. Maybe subconsciously, I was a little bit afraid. Maybe subconsciously, I had a little scarcity coming up about the additional investment, right? But I was like, you know what? Let me feel it out. And when we get closer to the retreat, let's see if I can make it happen. But still, I had this knot in my belly around the medicine journey. It wasn't about the investment. For me, it was like the nerves about the medicine journey. And let me just preface that a lot of my nerves and a lot of the fear that came up around the medicine journey was from hearing other people's perspective or hearing other people's experience. And this is a lesson in life. I've also never been one to really ask for advice from people or ask for perspective from people unless it's someone I completely trust. Because I don't want to absorb someone else's experience and then have to extract it when I'm trying to discern what is mine and what isn't mine. So when we got on the call towards the end of Medicine Woman, we got on the call with the most incredible humans that were going to be guiding us through this sacred sit. Before, I actually wasn't even able to make the call live, but I was able to watch the replay. And I remember I was driving home from teaching Pilates and I had my phone up in my car because I was watching the Zoom replay of the call that these two beautiful humans that were going to guide the experience were kind of just like chatting about what the prep was and chatting about how the experience will go. Excuse me. And they were answering any questions that the group had. I put it up in my car. I started to drive home from teaching Pilates, and I immediately felt in my body this surge of energy, this surge of excitement, this surge of fear that I needed to do this. It was probably 5 minutes in. They weren't even saying anything specific. They weren't answering any specific question that I had where I was like, if they answer this, I'll say yes. It was just the energy and the way that they spoke. It was the relationship that they had with each other. It's a man and a woman that are in divine union, divine partnership. And it was also the relationship that they had with my mentor. And I just saw love. So if you're listening and you're thinking about exploring the medicine, I would say first and foremost, who is holding the space? How do you know them? Perhaps it's a friend of a friend. Like really feel into that. Really feel into that. I'm sure if you have explored, I'm not sure, but I know there are moments that I've explored other psychedelics intentionally or recreationally where, I've been in a room and I've been like, oh, I'm not really feeling the people in this room. Nothing against the people. My internal environment is all a reflection of my external, right? And my response, perhaps if it was like an icky response to someone's energy, is all about my own response to myself in that moment. But we've all felt energy in a way that has kind of shifted our physiology. And in life in general, this should be a rule or a foundation or a core value that you follow, at least in my opinion. If you feel the energy is off, the energy is off. In this case, the energy was so on point. My whole body was buzzing. I have chills right now thinking about it. And I'm driving home and I'm like, how am I going to tell my husband? How am I going to ask my husband, tell my husband that I want to do this? That I want to go to the Big Island a year after we got married. So the trip was literally exactly a year after our wedding, 2 weeks that we spent in my hometown. And then we went to Maui, and I posted about this on my Instagram. If you have some time, go check out the post, but I posted about the duality, right? How we can go, and I'll get into this, but we can go from straight bliss and transformation. And I was in a portal of marriage a year prior. And then the retreat and my exploration with the medicine was also a new portal for me, but it felt like union with my body. So the year prior, I was in a portal of union with my fucking incredible partner. And then this journey really brought me into deep union with myself. Oh, that feels so good. I hadn't even thought about that. I just want to preface this episode as well, since we're just prefacing all around, is I didn't really prepare for this episode. So I'm just channeling and I'm just going, and I prayed before I hopped on, and I just trust that God and source and spirit will be here to allow me to express anything and everything appropriate for anyone that needs support making a decision to explore ayahuasca, or just explore themselves. Because let's be real, life is a plant medicine journey. Life is a journey. We can feel all of these things from life itself without the plant medicine. But holy shit, do you feel so connected to your environment with the plant medicine? And there are ways to feel that without it. And that's something that I'm creating right now and I'm going to go into. So let's get back to it. I'm driving home. I'm like, I need to do this. I want to do this. The investment was X amount. I didn't necessarily have it all in that moment to pay in full, but I really wanted to pay in full for the retreat and the investment and all the things. And I come home thinking I really like, I was buzzing. I had to tell my husband about this call, and I had to tell him that I'm really feeling the call to go and I want to go and I need to go. And I'm nervous about it because in the past, not from him, but from other partners in relationships, I got the reflection that I was too much and that I was never content with how things were. And I was always exploring things outside of the relationship. And I kind of was, to be honest. And so I had this like shame and guilt come over me. Like, what is he going to think? We just got married. We haven't even been married a year. And all of a sudden, I want to go explore ayahuasca for the first time, when all I've heard about ayahuasca was it's going to change your life. It's going to flip your life upside down, yada, yada. And we'll get into that because that was one of my biggest fears. One of my biggest fears was I don't necessarily want my life to completely change. And maybe that was me attached to comfort, because I'm feeling kind of different after the experience. I don't desire my life to completely change, but I'm ready for more. And I trust my power. And I trust that physiologically, my nervous system can handle the change. So perhaps rewind to where I was afraid of change. My nervous system, I hear this a lot with clients. I hear this a lot with my community. I'm kind of afraid of change. Why are we afraid of change? Because the nervous system is settled in the state that it's settled in. So if we're going to our 9-to-5 job every day, that feels good. We have our coffee stop in the morning. We go get Chipotle for lunch, and then we party our ass off on the weekends. And then we go back to that Monday through Friday. We're kind of healthy. We're kind of working out, right? We're reading 10 pages a day in a Gabor Mate book. And we're calling it a day. But there's more than that. How can every single day you open your eyes, you feel fucking blissed out? And that was a big message that came through in my ceremony was I was so blissed out. I have chills right now thinking about it. I didn't know if I'd be able to speak about it because I didn't know if I'd be able to really bring that moment into this conversation, and I never will be. But I have chills down my whole spine and on my chest and on my shoulders, thinking about the moments I would look around at the group and I would see their face lit up by subtle candlelight. And I just felt like, what is my life? I'm surrounded by the most incredible women that are so dynamic, that have been through shit and back. And they're all brave enough to sit here in this ceremony not knowing exactly what's going to come up for them, because they know there's more to life than the bullshit programs we have been stamped with, the bullshit labels that we have been stamped with, the bullshit labels we have placed on ourselves. We are way more than what we label ourselves as. We are way more than the traumas that we've been through. We are way more than the things that we're working on, the things that we're healing, the whatever, right? You name it. We're way more than that. We're a beautiful body with a heart and blood through the veins of our body, and bones and trauma stuck in the body that we're all still trying to release. And eyes that see things only the way we can see them. And ears that hear things, conversations or music or whatever, the only way we can hear them. We are so individual and we are so divine. And that is one of the biggest takeaways of this journey. Sorry. So I come home, I tell my husband, this is what I want to do. And he says, okay, let's make it happen. But something that was really big for me is that I wanted to be able to make the investment myself. I knew, and I was getting the message from source. I was getting the message from spirit that yes, your husband has helped you with growing your business and building your business. And I'm so fucking grateful. But he said, this is going to be your initiation into being the main investor in your business. And if you, did I just call source a he? That's the Catholic girl in me. They, whatever, right? Whatever entity is guiding me, I'm here for it. Jesus, God, Mary, bring them all in. Source said, if you make this investment, then you are going to shift your business from here on out in terms of abundance. And that can sound scary. And I'm sure my entrepreneur listeners you've heard that mindset money coach say, make the investment if it's scary and it will come back to you, no doubt. If you need to pull out a line of credit, if you need to do this and that, do it. It'll come back to you. That's bullshit. How you know it will come back to you is feeling into the body, not because someone told you. Someone that makes $50,000 a month is telling you, who are nowhere near that, but you have the potential to be, no doubt, is telling you where to invest your money. It's not an external inquiry. It's an internal inquiry. And at that moment, I was like, I'm going to make this investment. I can do this. And so I prayed that night. I got the call. I came home. I told my husband, I prayed that night and I said, God, if you are on my side with this exploration, if you feel like this exploration of a sacred part of you is ready to be inside of me and be a part of me for the rest of my life, show me the way. Show me the way. Show me how I can make this happen effortlessly. The next week, I made exactly the investment in my business. Exactly the investment in my business. It was over 4K and it just happened. And I remember getting on the call with my mentor and being like, hey, I just made exactly what I need to make to invest in this retreat. It feels like a fuck yes to me. And then I said, being the nervous system nerd that I am, I was like, and I still have a lot of scarcity to work through in my life. So being true and inviting in my scarcity, because we have to invite everything in that's true in order to integrate it and transcend it. I also said, but I'm also feeling kind of nervous because this is the most money, I've made this quickly. Yeah, that's really rad that it's possible. But now I'm feeling like if I put it all down on this retreat and this experience, this is fear talking. I put it all down on this retreat and this experience, then my nervous system is going to feel really panicked because I just made a really big investment, a really quick and big and effortless investment, but my nervous system is feeling a little uneasy. And to be honest, system wasn't feeling uneasy. That was just my mind talking. Let's take a breath. That was just my mind talking. And she, of course, guided me the way she guides me and sprinkled her fairy dust on me. And I made the decision to make the investment. And I felt so good. And guess what? Money kept coming after that. I kept, building these groups. I kept signing on new clients. I kept receiving opportunities that were high paying opportunities. And that's how it works, right? But to be real, I could never express how it works because I've never really experienced that before. I've heard it on podcasts and I've heard coaches and mentors and people speak about, yeah, you just got to trust and yada, yada. But it's like, let's talk about embodiment for a second. It's not until you fully can feel it in your body, you feel the magic in your body and your brain gets the signal like, okay, this is working. The brain wants evidence. My brain got evidence and I was able to calm my system with the regulation tools that I have in my toolbox. And then bada bing, bada boom, embodiment. Okay. So I do have a question here that I'm going to answer right now. It's what was offered before your journey to reassure you'd feel held regardless of what arose? So this is really important. And for me, I was really prepared for this journey. Because divine timing is a real thing. I was actually enrolled in a psychedelic integration program at that moment. Specifically, I've been working with psilocybin, and a part of my business is supporting prep for humans that want to start microdosing psilocybin and integration for humans while they're microdosing psilocybin and also within their protocol when they have that pause moment, right? Because if you're new to microdosing, especially if you're new, you microdose for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then you take about a month off. And that month off before you begin again, if it is supportive to your elevation, that month off is crucial. That month off is integration. And so I support people within the prep, within the process, and within the integration. And so I've been studying psychedelic integration for a little over a year, but when I decided that I was going to explore ayahuasca for the first time, I was already in a psychedelic integration certification with the most incredible humans, Access Mundi, Brooke, and Michael. They have been so supportive for me throughout this journey. I'll link them in the show notes. But yeah, they gave us support for everyone who was going to do that journey in this specific group. The sitters, the guides, the incredible humans I keep speaking about, we had a group leading up to it for a month before. We still are in that group right now. We're able to drop any emotions coming up. We're able to drop any questions, and they get right back to us. So another tip is if you are thinking about exploring this medicine, I would book a session with a psychedelic integration provider or a psychedelic prep provider, aka me, or I can refer you to someone that will feel best for your individuality. And I definitely highly suggest you really begin to get clear on your intention for the journey, but also notice around you in your environment, the things that are being amplified for you to look at. Because they say this, and I truly believe it. And when I say they, I don't know who they is, but when I have listened to podcasts and when I have talked to people that have been journeying with plant medicine for a while, they say that when you first decide that you're going to do a journey, the medicine starts to work through you immediately. So things start to shift. And boy, did I feel that. A month leading up to my sit, and you guys know I've suffered with skin stuff and psoriasis and eczema. a month leading up to it, it was really bad. And it could have been the nerves or the fear or the doubt within my body, but I was getting eczema underneath my eyes. I was really taking care of myself, right? Because you have to be on a very strict dieta leading up to Journey. I was getting lymphatic drainage massages. I was getting cupping. I was moving my body consistently, and I could feel that my body was already releasing and detoxing whatever needed to be released and detoxed, so that when I sat with the sacred medicine, I was as pure as possible for that moment. And that's kind of the goal here. And I know that's not accessible for everybody, but if there is any way you can begin your prep, which is like adding meditations to your regimen, adding walks, adding daily journaling, or just listening to some vibey music and sitting with the body and what the body wants to tell you, and sitting with your intention for the experience, that's going to be really beneficial. Intention, intention, intention. I have never felt the way I do now about intentions like I do now. I was just speaking in a group that I lead on Tuesdays, our advanced breathwork practitioner training. And I was saying how, like, I know intentions are important, but I've always kind of been like turned off by intentions, or specifically when people are like, well, what are your intention for this and for that and for this and for that? And whatever that means about me, it is what it is. But that's just me swimming upstream all the fucking time. I'm more of a like the environment will show me my intention type of person. But what was shown to me during this journey is like the exact intention that I had, I received. The exact intention I had, I received. So the night before the journey, I sat in my room at the retreat center, and I was so nervous. I was so nervous. I was so scared. I was almost getting emotional that day before the journey, or sorry, the day leading up to the journey. My third eye and my head was pounding, and I'd been eating so clean, and I had been just like sleeping well. And, there was no logical reason why my head was pounding other than my body was preparing to sit with the medicine. I was very nervous. I called my husband and I was just like, I'm nervous. I need you to sit with intention tonight. I need you to get clear on an intention for me in this session, because all of a sudden I'm an intention whore. I was like, babe, we need a solid container full of intention, because I'm fucking scared. And what I thought was really beautiful, and I'll share this with you guys, is that he planned it. My husband planned it that the night I would be sitting with ayahuasca, he was going to have his own ceremony, and he rented a Airbnb in the desert, and he sat with psilocybin and LSD. And so when he decided to do that like a couple weeks before I was going to leave. And so when he decided to do that, I said, okay, let's set an intention together. And he texted me this beautiful message of his intention the night before I sat. And that was really important to me. But when I was sitting in my room, I was just kind of journaling out my intention, and I'll read it to you here. My prayer for tonight is deep connection with self and body, with compassion for all of me, with the moment to sit in the light with my light, to become and remember. My prayer for tonight is to feel my ancestors and have deep compassion and gratitude for their support. and to trust my system, my body, and my gifts. And although that might seem like a kind of like cosmic intention, right? I received exactly all of those things so profoundly. Now I'll move on to just kind of speaking about my experience, and then I'll answer these questions. I hope you guys are enjoying this. So we go to sit in this beautiful ceremony, and I just want to preface that, like, for my first experience, this was perfect. I know there are many ways that people hold these ceremonies. I can only speak on this one ceremony that I have sat in that was the most incredible ceremony with the most incredible people. I know traditionally you don't necessarily know all the people there. I know traditionally you don't really know the guides. And there's all these different ways to do this. But specifically, my journey, we set up the space in the temple, in the retreat center, which was this like beautiful round temple with wooden floors and windows. And we were like in the middle of the retreat center land. So like there's big trees and flowers and nature everywhere. I mean, it couldn't have been better. And so we're getting ready for ceremony. I can feel a lull in the energy of the retreat center. I feel like everyone's just kind of tapping into spirit and tapping into their intentions. And, you know, they're not talking, nobody's really like talking that much. And you can just like feel this silence. And I was nervous. And so we go into ceremony and we set up like yoga mats and blankets and pillows, and you bring your journal in there. Although that there was no part of me during ceremony that wanted to journal at all. I brought like some essential oils, and I brought a couple like crystals and necklaces, and I wore the earrings that my husband had got me for our honeymoon. And I just wanted to feel really like loved up on by my space, and the space was gorgeous. And so the guides set up the ceremony space in the most intricate way. There's an altar in the middle. There's instruments everywhere. And I was expressing to some friends, like, if I knew ceremony was going to be like this, I probably would have explored this a lot sooner. You're sitting in the most magical temple with drums and harmonicas and guitars and humans that can sing like angels. And that's really what the night was. It was prayer. It was deep union with each other. It was holding each other through the human experience and the cosmic experience at the same time. And it was dance and play and singing. And God, it was so fucking beautiful. So although I was holding a lot of fear in the body, we go in, we set up our space, and I'm just kind of like, okay, you know, how's this going to go? The guides begin the ceremony. We get the opportunity to drink 3 cups. Okay. And so that was also something that I really loved. And I think this is how they do it everywhere, but you get the opportunity to choose. Like, you drink your first cup. The shaman decides not decides, but he kind of talks to you and sees how you're feeling about the journey. And, you know, he wants you to have a good experience. And so he honors what energy he feels from you. And then he serves you based off of that. And so we all drink the first cup, we come back and we sit down, and I'm just kind of like breathing. And mind you, I don't know what signal this was from my body, but I could not breathe out of my nose. I had the worst allergies that week, and I could not breathe out of my nose. And a sign, a signal that may have been could be that source didn't want me to rely on my breathwork tools. And I got a few other messages around that I'll keep to myself, but I was breathing in and out through my mouth basically the whole time. So we take the first cup, and I'm just kind of like sitting there in meditation, and I open my eyes. And with other psychedelics that I've explored in the past, I've never really been like a visual person. But all of a sudden I open my eyes and I see like a laser, like 3 lasers from the candle in the middle of the altar, or in the middle space. And it's like moving into my heart. It's like attached to my heart. So all I feel it and I see it. And it's almost like the laser, if you will, is holding me up in a seated position. And what some of the women had told me that have experienced ayahuasca before was, if you're feeling like you're going too deep, just sit up really straight, align the spine, look around. I totally get that, right? And so I was sitting up really straight, I was aligning the spine, and I felt like I was being held up by this laser. And then that kind of dissipated, and I looked at that wooden floor, and I could see the chakra system from the root to the crown of the head on the floor. Just a beautiful like mural of the chakra system on the floor moving into my space. So the root was beginning like right where my feet were. And it was gorgeous. It was so gorgeous. And so the guides begin to sing, and they begin to play their instruments, and it just becomes this really beautiful ceremony. And something, my intention was to connect with my ancestors, and my mom is Mexican and Spanish and French, and my dad is Puerto Rican. And, we learned a lot this past year that my mom has a lot of Aztec Mexican in her. And as they began to sing some of the prayers and sing some of the ceremony songs in Spanish, I just felt so fucking cracked open. I felt immediately so connected to my ancestors. I grew up singing Spanish songs. Both of my parents speak Spanish. My whole family speaks Spanish. I understand it. I don't speak it as well as I would like. And that's something I've always held deep shame around. But when I was growing up, where I grew up in school, it wasn't really like allowed to speak Spanish. And my mom, for sure, when she was growing up, would get in trouble if she spoke Spanish at school. And so there's definitely a trauma piece there with the way that she raised my brother and I not to really speak Spanish. And perhaps she was protecting us, but I felt so drawn to the music. I felt so called to the music. And I will say that I felt right at fucking home. And so the journey moves forward. And for me, it becomes just super body based. I feel it in my body. I feel the medicine moving down my toes and up through my knees and up through my belly and up through my womb and up through my heart. And it becomes so somatic. It was a absolutely 15-hour somatic experience where I was just feeling the sensations in my body. I was allowing emotions to arise, and I was moving and releasing stuck emotions and trauma from my body. I felt years of trauma release from my womb space without having to purge. And so a big question around medicine work is like, am I going to purge the whole night? And maybe you will. But I think that's a big fear, is like, I don't want to purge. I don't want to hear people throwing up, yada, yada. But like, it's not about that. It's the human experience. When someone in ceremony is purging, they're releasing something, they're healing something, they're becoming more of themselves. And so, yeah, I did have that human fear. Like, am I going to just be purging the whole time? But I wasn't afraid necessarily of purging, but I didn't purge one time. And sometimes you have to go to the bathroom, and release from the other end. And I didn't have to do that either. But if that ever comes up for you, it just is what it is. Like, the body knows. I was so reassured throughout this whole experience that the body knows. And so as I'm laying there, I can't stop moving. My spine is swiveling right to left. My spine is swiveling up and down. My legs are moving, and it feels so good. It was just like I was like dancing on the floor, like laying down, dancing on the floor. To be real, I was almost like having this sexual experience with the medicine. And it felt fucking incredible. It felt so good. I just kept getting the message, trust sensation, trust the body. You are in deep union with your body. Continue to explore your body. Your body is so intelligent. Your body is so wise. Your body is your mom's body. Your body is your grandma's body. Your body is your grandpa's body, your dad's body. And honor my body in a way that is honoring my ancestors. That was a huge message for me, is that when it comes to body acceptance and the work that I do in the world, I still have my own body issues. But my body, like my tummy that I wish was flatter for whatever reason, is the same belly that my mom has. And it's the same belly that she struggled with as a teenager and as someone in her 20s and 30s. I remember her always telling me, like, I just have a little pouch. And I have that same little pouch, and I'm proud of it because it's my mom's, and my mom is beautiful. And so I'm going to just move on a little bit. We get the opportunity to drink a second cup. At this point, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm just feeling my body so much. I can't necessarily put words out there because I'm just in the somatic experience. I drink a second cup, I come back, and really I can't give you the play-by-play moving forward, just because it was its own experience. Something that I held onto the whole time, though, was the mantra, I am so honored to meet you. And it just kept coming through me. I am so honored to meet you. And this means many things. It meant I am so honored to meet the medicine, because the sacred medicine that was put here to heal the fucking world. Like, I'm so honored to meet the medicine. I'm so honored to meet her. Like, I felt like I needed to be polite, and I needed to like really just put my best foot forward, because what an honor to have this experience. I'm so honored to meet my ancestors. I was so honored to meet myself in a new way. Something else that kept coming through about the mantra, I'm so honored, was I'm so honored to meet the women I was with in a new way. Every hour, I was meeting them in a new way that evening. And now, moving forward into my life and into the integration of my life, I'm so honored to meet everybody that comes into my life. I'm so honored to hold space for my students at the studios that I teach at. I'm so honored when anyone comes into my DMs asking me a question about whatever life. I am so honored to be in the body I'm in, and to be able to hold the space that I desire to hold for the healing and the elevation of the planet. I'm so honored to be called here to do that. And it all started with honoring this sacred medicine. Now, before I get into questions, let's take another breath in. Exhale, let it go. There's probably going to be a million more things that I wish I could have shared on here once I hit stop recording. I want to say that this medicine is going to be working through me for the rest of my life. Am I going to sit with the medicine again? Fuck yes, I am. And that is something that I diluted in the beginning. I told people I'll probably just do this one time. I told my husband, maybe it's just going to be really beneficial to do it once before we begin to explore what it's going to be like to have kids or start trying to consciously conceive. And I just spoke about this on my Instagram, but that was a bold-faced, fear-based lie. This is a part of my path. I was on a call with my integration therapist the other day, because that's important too. And I do want to say is, if you decide to explore ayahuasca, do some prep with a therapist or an integration provider. And then integration is the most important thing. I'm currently in deep integration in all aspects of my life right now. But I was speaking with him, and I have 2 more things to share. I was speaking with him and I was saying, I'm a little apprehensive to be like, oh shit, I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm in. I want to learn how to be a part of this community. I want to learn how to support people within their own exploration of the medicine work, as well as their own exploration of self and their own sacred self, right? It's like, yes, the medicine is sacred, but so the fuck are you? And so with the enlightenment of I am sacred, and with the enlightenment and the reverence that this medicine is sacred, together, those 2 mindsets, those 2 energies will allow big shifts in someone's life. So I was telling him yep, I'm really attracted to this space. I felt like I was home. I felt like it's something I want to do. I want to do over and over again. And I do realize that my first journey, my first ceremony was really blissful. And I do realize it might not always be like that. But I don't want to stop exploring this medicine, because I feel like the medicine has so much more to teach me. And I haven't felt like this since I discovered breathwork. When I first discovered breathwork, I had an hour-long session, maybe an hour-and-a-half session with a beautiful teacher here in San Diego. And I had never released that much emotion, because I have been stuck in disassociation for a really long time. You guys have heard me speak about that, but I have never been able to really cry and express my feelings. I've never been able to scream and express my feelings unless it was like through rage and anger in a really unhealthy way. And when I sat in my first ever breathwork ceremony, I felt so liberated. I cried, I laughed, I screamed, and I felt myself in a new way. And I haven't felt that, I haven't felt that. I feel that every time I do breath work, but the first time I felt that changed my life. And that's how I felt within this ceremony. And when I felt that within breath work, I was like, I need to be a breath work teacher. I need to give this to people. And so that is the same feeling I kind of have with this sacred medicine, is like, how can I support people through their exploration of this medicine? Because it's the way that, and if done right, and if done with honor and reverence, like I keep saying, it will change your life, and it will elevate your human experience, and it will heal all the really nitty gritty shit that we can't necessarily express that we need to heal, but the body knows. And the last thing, because Kristen's going to kill me because this podcast is way longer than we decided it should be. My journey was great. It was beautiful. We had a whole day to integrate. Afterwards, we went to the hot spring. We got massages, and it was really hard to kind of put words to my experience. It still is. But when I got home and I had time to settle in my own home and sleep in my own bed and be back kind of right with my feet, with my feet in my human experience, I got a fever and my body was still releasing a lot. And so what I think that was, is I was finally giving myself a moment to relax and to rest, you know, without the stimulation of travel and seeing my husband and spending time with my beautiful soul sisters. And my body was releasing a lot through my low back. And so I feel like I was continuing to release trauma. And so I had to take 3 days off and just kind of lay in bed and be. And so I just wanted to mention that because, at least for me, yes, I had a beautiful ceremony. There was trauma released, there was emotion released, and there was pain felt, fucking no doubt. But what it showed me was that I am strong, I am resilient, and there is this innate resilience that lives within me and within all of us. Pero, but the stillness of it all is the bridge between my physical and how God wants me to integrate. So the stillness was much needed. So if you are planning a journey, I would say take at least a week off after your experience, a week or two, if that's accessible to you, so that you can just kind of be how the body wants to be. Oh my gosh. Let me take a sip of my cacao. I'm going to answer some of these questions, and then I'll send you on your way. If you are still here, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have any questions that I do not answer right now, please message us. So I answered that question. What was offered before your journey to reassure that you'd feel held? I took it upon myself to explore integration, right? I thought it would be really beneficial. And I would absolutely recommend, what can you do to create mental and physical strength within your system before you go do this? What are the benefits and what's the experience like? The benefits, I already expressed my experience, but I mean, the benefits are really just deeper connection to self. What I have heard from a few different people is like they've healed addiction exploring this medicine. They've healed years and years of trauma. I feel like I released years and years of trauma that, quite frankly, my human was not ready to talk about. There are things that came up for me that I have never talked to anybody about. Never, not even my husband. That's wild. And I was able to be with those things, and I was able to release. What, like, those things in physical form in my body, if that makes sense. So the benefits are endless, but I mean, I've felt the most creative I've ever felt. I've felt the lightest I've ever felt. I've felt the most intellectual that I've ever felt when it comes to my teachings and the work that I'm here to express to people. I felt brave. I felt like my communication with people is on point, and I'm not afraid to set a boundary, and I'm not afraid to receive the answer no, because it just is what it is. And you're, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, we are way more than the things that we are afraid of. Was there any point during you felt scared or like you couldn't control your own emotions? So I love this question because it's not about controlling your emotions. In ceremony, some people, I'm sure, try to control their emotions, but if you're in a safe space, the goal is to get the emotions out. So there were a few moments I just started bawling my eyes out, and I didn't want to control my emotions. I was like in a deep connection with my dad's essence, and I was just crying, thinking about him and how much I loved him and thinking about his journey and healing. And I was just releasing, because an emotional release is releasing where that emotion has been taking up space in your body. And there was no moment in my journey that I felt out of control. Personally, I'm sure there are some people that have felt like that, but for me, there was no moment that I felt out of control. Just a few more questions here. Let's see. Could you speak on your experience to someone who has never done any sort of drugs in their life, never smoked weed, never done mushrooms, but I really want to try Aya? Try Aya if you're feeling called. You're going to be able to show up to that sacred setting with such a pure and clear mind. And I know naturally there is going to be some fear around, but I've never done anything like this. Like, what's going to come up? But this again sounds very cosmic, but what is supposed to come up for you is exactly what is supposed to come up for you. And you are so resilient that perhaps if you were to smoke weed in the past or do mushrooms, you would have been going into ceremony with a preconceived notion, because I know I definitely was. I definitely was like, okay, well, when I've had a bad LSD trip, this happened. When I had a really bad mushroom trip, this happened. Is that what it's going to be like? And it was completely wrong. So I think it is really rad that you have like this pure spirit going in without these altered thoughts about what it might be like because one time you smoked too much pot in the 4th grade. 4th grade, that's really young. Maybe when you were 14. Let me see if there's any questions here that I haven't answered. Was Aya scary? I've always wanted to try, but I'm fearful it will change me forever. So that was one of my main things that I spoke about in the beginning of the podcast. I was a little bit afraid that it was going to change my life forever because there was some part of me holding on to being comfortable, and that fear is gone. There's always a new level to step into in life. And this medicine is a deep body medicine. So there's always a new level to step into in life, but the nervous system is always protecting us. Thank God, right? So if you're feeling like the need for change, but you're not necessarily making the change, it's because there is something within the system that is kind of keeping you in the same place. And I would say if you're worried about change forever, to ask yourself, what are you holding on to? I hope that helps. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. This episode, I hope, was beneficial for you. Like I said, I'm going to close my laptop and there's going to be probably a million other things that I wish I could have expressed to you, but I'm just going to trust that what came out is exactly what was supposed to come out. I just want to finish the episode with, I honor this medicine so much. I honor the people that guide and hold space for it. I honor everyone who brought this work to the Western world. I just have deep, deep, deep reverence for this work. My experience is my experience, and I will absolutely continue to share my experience and my experiences with plant medicine as I continue to explore different ways to enhance and to heal my spirit. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon.